Hello, everyone. Welcome to More Than Magic. I'm your host, Kirsten Thompson, and we are here today at the VOD Pod Media Studios in the heart of the East Side, San Antonio. We are a locally produced show. It's an online media production company, Black owned, and we are a space for Black and Brown creatives. Please, before we get started with this amazing, fabulous guest that we have, take a pause, like the video, like right now, share the video right now, so that we can get the word out and share all of this amazing content with you. So I'm very excited to introduce our guest, Stacey Williams. Stacey, hi, welcome.
Hey, sweetheart.
Stacey has come all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, and will be in San Antonio this week, and was gracious enough to grace us with your presence. So thank you for being here. Like, really.
And I am honored to be on the podcast. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So we were kind of joking before about how this has been kind of a long time in the making.
Like 10 years, maybe somewhere around that.
Tried to make things happen before, and the universe was just like, later.
Yeah, not happening.
So I guess a good way, well, one thing that we do here at the show, it's a tradition.
Okay.
That I ask every guest about their name, whether it's, an unusual name or it's a name that's a little bit more common, because I think it's very important that people say our names.
Definitely.
Give them honor, speak them correctly.
Yes.
So were you named after anyone in your family, or?
I was not. My mom was very specific when she named us. I was born in the 70s. And all of myself and my sisters, we all have very simple names. They are not short for anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So my sister Kim, not short for Kimberly. She
okay.
purposely named us with simple names that had no obvious ethnic connotation, because she did not want us to have to fight through that. Woo! It was very protective. Yeah. She didn't want us to have to fight through that just to get into the door for the interview, because I'm named so-and-so. They didn't want to look at my resume. She didn't want that for us. She was very thoughtful when she named us. So,
and that's, as soon as you started to explain, I started getting goosebumps, because to have the foresight to be able to say, I need to have this little hedge of protection around my babies by giving them these names. Wow.
My middle name, though, is my mom's first name. My older sister's middle name is her middle name, and then I got to name my little sister, name her little name.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so that was nice. Yeah.
Oh, good job, Mama.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, us trying to get together in the past, and I guess we'll start with how you ended up in San Antonio when I sort of met you, because you had just come back from New York City. And anytime somebody has left New York City to come to San Antonio, I'm like, why?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Why?
No, understood.
So, but you had a really interesting job at the time. So why don't you tell us about what you were doing there at that point in time, and what you were doing before in New York, because that's all really fascinating.
Okay, so New York, I actually left for New York the year after I graduated college. I had no plan, as happens a lot with someone with ADHD, had no plan, and just decided, I was like, someone said to me, they're like, girl, I thought you'd be in New York by now. I was like, you know what, motherfucker, you are right. What the hell am I still doing here? What I did, went home, sent out my resume, sent out my CV, sent out a videotape to all of these designers. I actually got a rejection letter from John Paul Gaultier in French, because I wrote my resume in French. No. Yes. And fucking sent that shit over. Got a rejection letter, still have that shit.
I was going to say I would save it in French.
Yes, seriously. But anyway, so I started making phone calls a week later, Hi, I sent my resume in for an interview, for an internship, blah, blah, blah. I got an internship with Anna Sui, and I swear to God, what I realized after I got there is that they didn't look at my resume. They were just like, yes. I called, and they were like, okay, when can you start? And I'm like, next week. I got off the phone, and I was like, Mom, I think I'm leaving. I need to find a place to stay. I need to get a credit card. I have $500 and my dad's old Army duffel bag. Wow. And I got on a plane, and some of my favorite college teachers, the ones that we were talking about earlier that always supported me, met me at the airport to say goodbye, had a layover.
Wow.
One of my other teachers who had moved met me at the airport on my layover, ran with me to my next flight just to say goodbye.
Wow.
And and that was I spent, what was it, like 15 years in New York, 15 years in New York. And let me tell you, I experienced from being as in didn't eat dinner so I could actually drink on the weekends, to actually having money and having a car. And believe it or not, like
having
people
a car in New
York,
having
a car in New York, exactly.
Major.
Yeah, having a car. It was used, girl. It was used, but still, I had a car in New York. Yeah. So I experienced A through Z, and I think before I left, I ended up having a shop in the East Village. Yeah. So that was really nice, and it was like a whole conglomeration of different designers with little shops inside of a big shop, and so did that in the East Village. And then I ended up coming home. I needed to recenter, believe it or not. I needed to recenter. And it wasn't necessarily something that I was happy about, but it was definitely something that was needed, and I've come to terms with that. And I'm like, no, that is what had to happen in my life. So came home, recentered, ended up, the two things I've always wanted to do in life were to teach, basically to give back and do for somebody else what my college professors did for me, seeing something in me and supporting me. I want to do that for other people. And also, the industry changes so fast. Yes. You need somebody to tell you what's going on right now.
Absolutely.
With that experience, that current experience, not just what ended up in a book. In the book, what we're actually doing. And then, and to also be a fashion designer, that was it. So I came home and I was like, oh, there's an art institute here. So I just started sending out my resume or whatever. And I ended up, and this is when we met.
Right.
Virtually met.
Right. Yeah, that terminology now, it's like, oh, I met them kind of.
Yeah, I know, right. So I ended up teaching, was it like 7-8 years now at the Art Institute. So, as a fashion instructor.
I just remember, I think you and I can both speak to the experience. You being a fashion designer, me being a stylist, and then working like different positions in retail that are very adjacent to the fashion industry.
Yes.
And you don't see a lot of faces that look like yours. So I remember finding out, like, wait a minute, there's actually a Black instructor at the Art Institute. What? I was so happy to find that out. And I know that your students were absolutely encouraged by that. I really want to talk about what your experience has been being a Black woman in the fashion industry, where you are, I don't like to use the term minority, but if we're speaking strictly statistics in the large...
Number one, in the fashion industry, women designers are minority.
Yes.
Number two, as a woman of color, you in the fashion industry, again, then you are Double even jeopardy. More of a minority. Did y'all know that Tracy Reese was Black? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you know how many years it took me working in New York until I found that out?
You're like,
I was like, sister, yes. And I was like, it's so nice to see someone that looked like me. And I was like, go girl, having runway shows, being sponsored and da-da-da-da. I'm like, that is awesome. Yes. That is fantastic. But yeah, being a woman just in general, because a lot of salespeople tend to be men. Will tend to be men selling the fabric, that sort of thing.
A lot of the buyers, a lot of the manufacturers.
Yep, and the manufacturers, exactly. Yeah. And they will, old school New Yorkers, old school New Yorkers in the industry can be a little misogynistic. Yeah. So you definitely have to put your foot down. But I was one of I don't actually... On photo shoots, I think I was the only Black person on. The makeup artist, one of the makeup artists. But like, I'm going through my entire career here in my head, and I'm like, I usually was the only African American or person of color or brown person, or brown person in the room.
It's very common.
Yeah. Excuse me, guys. I have allergies, so
yeah, it's like welcome to Texas.
Yeah,
I would say
welcome back.
75% of the people who are watching this or are going to watch it later, like mountain cedar is no joke.
No, it's
Mold
not.
is no joke. So if you have to sniffle, no one's going to be like, "What's going on
Forgive
with
me.
her?" It's South Texas. It's really bad. So what? I have so many questions ping-ponging around. I'm like, okay, Kirsten, keep
Get them all out, and I'll
keep
try
them
and
in
just hit
track.
them.
So what do you think in your person, like in your personality, allowed you or enabled you to withstand that environment? Because it's no joke. Like, it's very intense. You have to have an extreme amount of, I guess you could say, faith in yourself. Like, did your family really like push you and encourage you? Did you have like girlfriends? Like, what was your, or did you just pull from inside?
When I couldn't pull from inside me, I pulled from the faith and support that my friends and my family gave me, and that my teachers gave me, that I belonged there, that I could do it. Because let me tell you, not every day do I feel like that.
Yeah.
You know, but
that's real.
It's like, well, they believe in me, and I trust them, so they obviously see something in me. So when I couldn't give it to myself, I pulled from the people who were able to give it to me. So, it did take a toll on my mental health.
Yeah.
And just being completely transparent, it was, you have to put your foot down. And unfortunately, there were a lot of toxic environments. Okay, so being in a high stress, go, creative environment is already stressful, right?
Yes.
Everything has to be on point. Everything is on fire.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the toxic environment that I ended up in wasn't the small designer house. That was a great environment. That was family owned, family run with the cousins and all the other stuff. Yeah. It wasn't that. That was seriously stressful, but that wasn't the toxic environment. It was a corporate toxic environment. Name shall not come through my lips, but still, it was corporate and it was toxic. And I ended up with an eating disorder.
Yeah, really.
I
You know
did.
what? Thank you for. So there's this thing in the fashion industry, and I have to keep in mind that we only have like an hour, but
Okay.
there's this idea that it really is all glitz and glamour. And, you know, all of my friends are either, they're creative people. So
mine
I
too,
have so many friends who are designers, makeup artists, they own hair salons, they're professional dressmakers and seamstresses.
On my end, I've got a lot of painters, sculptors, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And the arts in its entirety, like, it's just difficult because a lot of people think that when you have a talent or a gift that you don't work for it. So it's like, oh, you just get up and throw things together and make pretty things. Oh
no, there's some education that I had to pay for that went behind this. Yeah.
There's a methodology. There's blood, sweat, and tears. And I really, really thank you for just being transparent and saying that you developed an eating disorder, because I don't think that a lot of people understand that they're not alone in some of the challenges they face with mental health in the creative industries, in the arts, because it's hard to get funding a lot of times. It's hard to get people that, you know, prop you up. So how did you come through that? Like, what did you do to get past that obstacle? Oh my God. Because that's tough. That's a hard one.
It was a very dark period, and as embarrassing as it was, like, I asked for help. I asked for help. I think it was overwhelming to the person that I asked for help from, who was my significant other at the time. I did not get the help. And it turned out they knew what was going on. I didn't find out till years later. They knew what was going on. And I said, okay, well, that was a good decision that I left, because that's not the sort of person I needed to be with. But I got help. I asked for help, and I was like, okay, obviously I got to do this on my own. I was like, okay, I need to find someone to talk to. I need to find somebody to talk to. All right, fine. You know, as Black people, you know, we don't necessarily, growing up, we don't necessarily go to the hospital.
Right.
We don't necessarily
just walk it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Put some tussin on it.
Drink
a Sprite.
Exactly.
Lay down.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I'm like, okay. I was like, no, I think I need to talk to somebody. Fine, I'll take medication. Yeah. Okay, so it's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Absolutely not.
Like, all right, you know, and And it also turns out I had ADHD, which for the longest time they thought was other stuff. And it's like trying to explain that, no, it's just some chemical stuff that's not clicking in my head. There's nothing actually wrong with me.
No.
You know what I mean? So anyways, a lot of work. And like being an alcoholic, you are forever an alcoholic, right? Whether or not you're currently drinking,
Right.
I will forever have an eating disorder.
Okay.
I'm in remission,
Right.
but I will forever have an eating disorder. Like everything that goes into my mouth, there are thoughts that go along with it. You know, there are coping mechanisms, not keeping certain types of foods in the house that I know that if I have a bad moment, I might go to and binge eat or whatever. You know, thoughtful about, did I work out too much this week? Did I not work out enough? Did what I work out, was that healthy? Making sure, continually to remind myself, asking myself, is what I'm doing, is what I'm eating healthy? And is it coming from an emotional place? Is it, just completely analyzing my...
Yeah. Thank you for
my
that.
actions.
Because there are so many people that I have a theory, and I don't have a degree in psychology, but I study humans a lot.
Human behavior.
Yeah. And
Very
I
interesting
really
to me.
do believe that people who are neurodivergent have special gifts.
Tend to be...
Because there's so much energy there, you have so many synapses firing simultaneously. I do believe it's a double-edged sword. So some of that same energy that's feeding the creativity, that's feeding the grandiose ideas, that's feeding the visions, and taking things from your mind and making them tactile, it can also be detrimental because it's just so much to rein in.
I tend to... Now, let me tell you, while medicated, ADHD is my superpower.
Right. This is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Unmedicated, maybe not.
Right.
Not so much.
Right.
But because of that, like, I like to know the why. You know what I mean?
Everything
I like
is
to know
in the why.
Exactly.
Everything.
Let me know why. Why did you ask that question? Because maybe you didn't form the question right to get the answer you were looking for. Why did you ask that question?
Right.
Or why did you react like this? Or why this? Or why that? Or why did they do so-and-so? So it helps. But then because of that, I'm also very good with coming up with processes or thinking in the reverse. So which a lot of design is about, okay, fine, you can design it. But can you get into it? Can you make it? And you have to reverse engineer the design to make it wearable. To basically, I'm an architect for people's bodies. And I teach that to my students, because don't let anybody downgrade or downplay your gifts and what you're going to school for just because it's a creative endeavor. You are an architect for a person's body.
Absolutely.
Just like an architect for a building, you have to take numbers. Girl, I have a complicated relationship with numbers.
Right.
But you ask me, what's half of 3/4? I can tell you 3/8. But as a kid, I would have had anxiety with that. And then one day I was teaching and a student asked me that, and I was like, oh, I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, it happened. I was like, oh, I guess I do know that, But anyways,
it's a science and an art.
It really is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I do see that a lot, where people tend to think that the arts are, I don't want to say frivolous, but they think it's just, it's nice to have it around. But really, the science of art informs every single thing that we have in the material world.
Yep.
Everything, whether you like to play video games or someone designing, the colorscapes and the...
If it wasn't, we would all be sitting on black folding chairs. Someone had to design this, and obviously, exactly. Look around your home. If you don't think that art and design and creativity is important to you, why are you sitting on a cute couch?
Right.
Why are your hand towels adorable? Why is the comforter? Why this? Why that?
Why
obviously,
are you not wearing khakis every day?
Exactly. So that is, and then also people really downplay also the worth of art. When a millionaire, when someone doesn't have to work, what do? I'm going to make some music. Yeah. I'm going to paint. I'm going to learn this. Right. What do we go to? We don't go to calculus. Right. We don't go to, we do art. We are creative when we don't have to worry about our life, like, being alive or feeding
Yeah.
ourselves. What do we do?
Yeah.
We do something creative.
Absolutely.
It is very important
That's
for
a
your
really
mental
good
health.
point.
It actually releases endorphins.
Yes.
It actually
Yes.
releases
Speak
endorphins.
on it.
Yes.
Speak on
yes,
it.
definitely.
Yeah. So then I kind of want to go back. So at what point in your childhood or in your adolescence, when did it solidify for you? Like, when did this idea crystallize? Like, I am going to be a designer. Did you always know, like from a little girl, or did you have a moment?
In elementary school, I always sketched clothes, but it came from the place that, we didn't have money. We shopped thrift stores before it was cool.
Before, yes.
Before it was cool. We shopped thrift stores in Walmart. So
Yeah.
I hated the way I dressed. I hated the way things fit, having the hip to waist ratio that we tend to have.
Right.
I basically just sketched what I would love to wear. I would imagine myself in it. And then when I finally got around, and I had this dream of moving to New York and living above a store and having my store downstairs and that sort of thing. The 80s movies were wrong. They were, that was only possible in the 80s. By the time you saw that shit in the 90s, all
was
those
over.
laughs were gone. Thank
It was
you.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, it was over. But anyways, tell you the truth, I got a scholarship when I was in college to go to SAC for mortuary science.
Really? Now that is
Random.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, completely random. I've been part of what was that program, the work and go to school program, whatever.
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
like,
You get
let's send out
credits toward-
Yes.
Okay.
So they were like, okay, let's apply for scholarships and all this other stuff. I just applied for everything.
right. You're like,
And I
give me
got
all the
that.
money.
Yeah.
Really?
So it was literally like August, like weeks before college started. My parents sat me down and said, we don't want you going to a 2-year school. There's nothing wrong with that, but being a Black woman, you need to go to a university. We need a 4-year degree behind that name. You are going, and I said, oh. I was like, shit, we only have a few weeks. And I was like, they were like, is there anything else you'd like to do? And I was like, the only other thing I've ever wanted to do is be a fashion designer.
Wow.
And so did a little research. Okay, not like that because, computers weren't.
And they were a little slow. It was like,
Exactly.
the dial-up.
Yes. And we had a word processor, not a computer at the time. So
Right.
anyways, did some research and I was just like, okay, well, don't have enough money to go to New York. And then also, would I rather be a big fish in a small pond or a big fish in the ocean? And I was like, all right, well, I have to make a quick decision. Went to University of Incarnate Word. I was like, I heard somebody got some clothes into a store down on St. Mary's that went to, and that's how I ended up at UIW.
Wow.
But
so were you there when Dr. Walsh was there?
Yes, she was my mentor.
Oh.
Dr. Walsh believed in me.
Yeah. She was amazing.
She was the one who said yes to allowing me, a freshman, the first and only freshman to do the fashion show.
The cutting edge.
Yes.
Oh.
And I think that
You're
that
part
year,
of history.
Yeah, that year I won first place, best designer, best collection, and what was it, best construction, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, but other students didn't like me very much.
That's okay.
Yeah.
They may not
Excuse
have
me.
liked you, but they respected you. And that sometimes is more important. And sometimes people
That
won't
is
even.
that is all that's important to me.
Yeah.
I don't care if you don't like me.
Right.
Respect what I do,
Exactly.
and I'll respect you for what you do. I'm not kiss your butt. I'll respect you
Right.
for what you do.
Absolutely.
But I have to like you as a person.
Yeah, that's important. That's really important. So I didn't realize Dr. Walsh has a special place in my heart for many reasons, and I think so. You were telling me earlier that one of the reasons why you like to stay in contact with your students. So you have an intern now,
Yes.
who was your student.
Was my student. She
Yeah.
graduated. She's extremely creative and talented, and we are working on getting her to New York, damn it.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, some of my other students, actually, I helped them move to New York, and I was like, okay, you want to look in this neighborhood, you want to da-da-da-da, you guys have to go together, and blah, 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 blah. And they would call me like every few weeks. They're like, okay, something's wrong with the apartment. And I'm like, okay, don't take crap. You need to tell them to blah, 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 And
Yes.
they're like, okay, well, they said they need this much money. And I was like, be prepared to pay this, this, and that. Yeah, but we're trying to get Ileana to New York. But yes, I have an intern before I moved to Phoenix. She came into my studio and she would work with me. She's extremely talented, and if I didn't see that in her, I wouldn't bother.
Right.
but some extremely talented students have come out of the Art Institute that I'm very, very proud of.
But I love.
But she's now interning remote for me or whatever, and going to, for the photo shoot that we're having on Monday, she's going to be assisting me.
Yeah, that's beautiful though, because you were saying earlier that you really like to keep that connection, kind of keep the door open, which is so important, because I think a lot of students graduate and then they're just kind of like, okay, I'm off in the world and I don't necessarily have the support system.
Right.
But that village is so important. Sometimes it's the difference between success and not finding your way. Yeah. So kudos to you for being that for students.
And it's different when your mom tells you you're talented versus when your teacher tells you you're talented.
Absolutely.
It's like when my mom told me I was pretty. I was like, Mom, I came from you. Gotta tell me that. You know, I didn't believe it. You know what I mean? When some random person says, "Oh, you're cute," I'm like, "Oh my God!" Oh, you know.
And don't let it be a sister.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh my Lord, I have to say, oh my God.
It's a whole other level. I love it.
And now for me, now that my hyperpigmentation and my melasma and my KP is like, I finally got that under control, and I'm not wearing loads of concealer and I only have to wear powder now.
Yeah.
That actually means more, because now it's not in the back of my head. It's not just, oh, it's just the makeup. It's like,
you're like,
no,
they
actually see. Yeah.
Well, you are glowing. Like when you walked in, I was like, oh my goodness.
Girl, I was sweating.
You couldn't, it's not sweat, it's dew. It's dew. You were dewy. So I really want to talk about your, goodness, you're doing so much. So
sorry.
No. This is a good thing. So you know, because I looked at your website and you have different collections, and one of the things, and we were talking about this earlier, you have you have to blow on screen. Like, I don't care.
Come on, go.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So
all right, I'll put the tissue down. Okay, we're good. Tell me when. All right, we're good.
So I wanted to talk to you about where your inspiration comes from, because what I see in your design is like, and you can tell me if I'm right or if I'm in the neighborhood,
okay, go ahead.
but I see a balance between what's considered very feminine. You know, we have ideas about what's feminine, but then there's like a tough girl in there. There's like an edge. Where do you get your inspiration from?
You know what? My friend asked me that the other day. He's a writer. And so he was like, well, as a designer, and we also talked about appropriation too. Oh my God, that was a whole conversation. And then he was like, let me ask you, as a designer, where did you inspire? And I'm like, girl, you have no clue.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could drive down the street, architecture, paintings.
Yes.
I made a print from a butterfly wing once. The butterfly wing was just that cool, you know, like everywhere.
Right.
I recently saved, like, I think pictures of these Technicolor slugs, and I'm like, that would be a great color concept for a print, you know? So inspiration comes from everywhere, but it's really just, I guess, how I want to portray myself, or what I want to be, or how I want to be seen. Smart, tough, sexy, woman who takes no crap.
Yeah.
But someone who's also fun loving.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, it's, but also like with my background, yes, I grew up listening to like NWA and like the old school 80s hip hop and everything. Yes. Right. But my actual background, I grew up as a punk.
Like the Ramones and
the
like
Ramones, Misfits, who we're going to see next weekend.
Yeah.
Anyways, but the Ramones, Misfits, all of that. Like I grew up as a punk, and so so that has
Are you a
lot
Joan Jett fan?
to Joan Jett. Oh yeah. Yeah, JoJo.
I love her. I love her.
know.
I have a friend who's married to her drummer. Yeah.
Yeah, Stephanie.
Oh, you know Stephanie?
Yes,
Small
yes,
world.
yes,
Stephanie
yes,
and I know each other for like 20 years. Such a small world. Okay.
So anyway, so like a lot of inspiration from that or what have you, but it's kind of like, you know, for the population of us who have like punk or metal or like just alternative in general roots, the clothing, sticking it to the man feeling or whatever, that rebel feeling.
Yeah.
That edge, that's what it is, the edge.
Right.
You still want to have an edge. You don't want to look like a cartoon character, though.
Right.
You know, you still want to look elevated and look... I look high maintenance. I'm actually low maintenance. So I am a low maintenance, high maintenance person. If it takes too much time, it's not going to happen. Exactly. I got dressed in like 5 minutes. I did my makeup in 5 minutes. I did my hair in 5 minutes.
Really?
Girl, I was dressed and waiting. Like hanging
and
out on the couch.
And you did message me. You're like, I'm just sitting here. And I was like, okay.
I gave myself time, but I was already done. I was like, I guess I'll paint my nails. you know? Yeah, I was like watching TV on the couch with my husband.
But I like that you said that because I think the average person would see you. And so like you've got a very specific style of like your ear jewelry, then you've got your fabulous necklace, and then your shirt has like these leather cutouts. And someone would say like, oh my goodness.
But this is an Old Navy tank top. Okay, I'm wearing jeans. I'm wearing my favorite Comme des Garçons, like Chuck Taylors. But really like the earrings always stay.
Right.
Like it's not like I put them, they're just always there. So the things that I wear tend to look dressed up, but they're things that can just go for every day.
Yeah.
So the funny thing, I want to look dressed up without having to put so much time into it. Yes. And I think that's what people don't like about fashion a lot of times when they say I'm not into fashion.
Let's talk about it.
It's like, I don't want to put in the effort, or I think it's just too much effort. It doesn't have to be too much effort. You're still into it. Even putting on those leggings and that t-shirt, you're still saying something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's communication. It's nonverbal communication. You're always saying something about yourself.
Exactly. So I design it also the way I dress and also the way I buy clothes or make clothes for myself or what have you is whatever I grab, no matter how I feel, it should look good.
Yes.
So I used to own band t-shirts are like basically what I sleep in, right? And shorts.
Okay.
I buy, for stuff like that, I buy the exact same thing. Same 5 pairs of shorts, same color. That's it. But everything else, if I'm wearing leggings, they're not just blah leggings. They're interesting leggings.
Right.
So if I gotta throw on leggings to go to the bodega, I still look good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've got flip-flops. I don't just have plain chanclas.
Right.
Like my chanclas are cute. They're still really comfortable. So if I have to throw on chanclas and a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, I still look good. I have all these earrings and I still look dressed. Yeah. So that's kind of like how I design as well. Like it's not going to be super, like I take time to design things that are not super fussy. I think about it. Yeah. It's like, is this tie too long? Will they know how to wrap this tie? Yeah. Do I need to shorten it so it's just one wrap around in tie so you don't have to think about it? Like, is the placement, like I designed for also curvy women and just in general, inclusivity for color. So I will always offer colors that look good on pink skin tones and yellow skin tones. Always. There will always be 2 color palettes because I don't want to forget anybody. You know what I mean? Because I've been forgotten and I know how it feels. I've just like the most recent pair of leggings that I designed. It's one of my custom prints. I specifically designed them with the cutouts to raise your ass. Thin the thighs.
I'll take a pair of.
Yeah, thin the waist, raise your ass, thin the thighs. So you can have big thighs in these tight, but still look svelte. Yeah. Like, they're I mean, someone who's skinny is going to look good at them too, yes, but they're made for a curvy girl.
Girl.
Yeah.
Well, and I am so glad, in my work, because I do a lot of personal shopping for people, I didn't always appreciate this. I appreciate it as a concept or like theory, but not in practicum. The amount of work that it takes for a full-size woman to look good, it's almost, it's unfair. That
it is completely unfair.
So much time, and we're going to talk about something because I'm kind of heading in this in the direction of this topic, but it takes so much time and so much effort to cultivate a look that's not dictated by, well, the industry says this is what we deserve, so this is what we're going to get.
Exactly. Yeah.
So to find stuff outside of that. So I want to get your opinion on this company because.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you the truth.
Well, no. I think we should talk about it.
Okay.
And, I've had a couple of guests on in the past. One was a co-founder of the Ethical Society of San Antonio. And I kind of jokingly threw this company's name out there. And they're not the only one. But for you, as a Black woman, as an artist and a designer, someone who is also an educator and who puts a lot of time and thought into her craft, then you have companies like, I'm just going to say it, you have companies like Shein or however you pronounce it, right? Who, it's really a catch-22 because a lot of our full-size, plus size, full-figure sisters have said to me, well, that's just an easy place for me to get clothing.
Yeah, because the options are limited. I understand that.
Right. So I guess my first question would be, what would you say to curvier women about investing in quality clothing when able, because I know not everyone's able to. I think
people should invest in quality clothing, period. Have you ever had like your favorite, go-to yet club hoodie? Like that looks good even when you're just in the grocery store, but also when you're trying to strut your stuff, just fall apart on you. Like that's terrible, but also you're wasting more money when you buy cheap clothing. I feel for curvy women. I mean, I'm a size 14, 16 right now. So, it is, by the way, I do plus size. Thank you. And
I wanted you to throw that in there.
as a designer, even getting to that point as a small designer is very expensive.
Yeah.
Like everything I have for size that I have to buy, the mannequin, the scale. You can't just scale up from a size 4 to a size 16. You have to start over. You have to make one pattern for the size 4, then you have to make another pattern. It's double the work and it's double the money. And I've only just been able to get to the point to where I can now offer plus sizes. But for curvy women, for anybody in general, invest in your clothing.
Yes.
Well-made clothing will last. Now, if it's complete like fad trend piece, fine. I'll give you that. Fine. Buy the H&M or Forever 21, who I do not support because they use child labor. The same with Shein.
Right.
Okay. But I understand. However, if you really care, like my clothing line, ethically sourced fabrics from the United States. If they're not organic, they're recycled man-made fibers, and if they're not organic, they are natural fibers. If they have to be man-made, they're recycled man-made fibers, but if you really care, then, and it doesn't have to be hard. Just go to the thrift shop. Just go to the thrift shop. Actually invest and have it tailored to fit you.
Yeah. That makes a tremendous everything.
Oh yes, you can look like $1 million in a $5 shirt if it fits well.
Absolutely.
I know when you don't have money, because I've been there.
We've all,
we need to buy the $5 pair of shorts from Dollar Tree. I understand that. Go to the thrift shop. People, especially people with money, throw away like clothes that have only been worn twice, and send them to Goodwill. Yeah. So just go to Goodwill in a nice neighborhood, guys.
Right. No, we've all done it. And we did it before it was a thing. I mean, growing up, that's how, I had a single mother who worked 2 jobs, who went to school. And my whole life, people thought I had all this money because my mother made sure we were sharp. And we went to, I don't know if you remember Solo Serve, but we went to Solo Serve, estate sales, garage sales, and we were always fly.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I had a hard time convincing people, like, no, we're not rich. My mom just really makes sure we look nice.
Yup. And
like, we're doing okay, but we're not
rich. I had money too. I was like, nah, I worked 3 jobs.
Yes.
And my mom taught me how to dress, considering that most of the time we're representatives of our race whenever we're somewhere, it gets kind of annoying, but still, you don't show up looking like crap. You show up looking sharp, at the very least clean and put together,
Yeah. So how do you feel then, because you also are an educator? We were talking about like getting tailors, to make things fit. Do you think that designers really are embracing the idea that it's all about the line, or like the line of the garment, or do you see a lot of designers in your mind that are kind of dwelling on like the frivolous aspect of, so it's like, if someone needs a black dress, it's like, we'll make a black dress, throw some beads on it, throw some this, throw some that, throw some.
It depends on the type of the designer that they are.
Right.
Because also designers aren't just, you don't just design for the sake of designing. You're also designing for a specific customer.
Absolutely.
And if you don't like it, maybe you're not their customer. If it doesn't fit you right, even though you are the right size, maybe you're not their customer, because we also have to design for body types. Even if you're slim, I design for people who have a little bit more of a butt. You know what I mean? So someone who has a flat butt might not look as great in my clothing. That's just the way it is. And that's, every single brand is like that. You have to try it on, and then that's how you end up with brand loyalty. Is, well, they make for someone, they make garments for someone with a small hip to waist ratio, but it also depends on the type of designer. So so it really depends. So, like, my husband and I were talking about this the other day, and I love the fact that he actually listens to me when he like says something back, and I'm like, what? Oh my God. I was like, you listened about fashion on that.
You really care.
Yeah. Couture is art. Yes. Shit is not meant to be worn going to the club. You know what I mean? Like, or worn out. It literally is art. It is high art. The artist is making a comment on society. Right. Balenciaga is not for real that they want you to walk down the street with that potato chip bag, okay? And if you do, it's going to be someone like Tilda Swinton, who I love.
Yeah. She's like a wonderful
alien. Who is making
alien.
a comment. You know what I mean? It's a comment. So then you go down from there. Right. Then you work your way down. So maybe if it's just all about the bling, maybe they're designing for people who don't really care and just want to want to show off. Don't really think about the lines and just want to show off.
Yeah, and there is something for everyone. Yeah,
there is something for
it's all valid. Yeah. I think we've all seen The Devil Wears Prada, and there's that scene where
oh girl, that triggered my anxiety.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, The Devil Wears Prada triggered me. I cannot. I was like, oh, I remember those
you
times.
Lived all
I'm like,
of it.
Oh yes,
you lived all
I'm
of
like,
it.
that's not a joke. I told my husband while we were watching it, I was like, babe, that shit actually happens. Yeah. I'm like, that's just real. I'm like, that's not funny. And I was like, I need a glass of wine. I don't watch that movie very often because of that.
Well, I hate that I brought it up now.
No,
but
it's okay. It's funny. It's funny.
There's one specific scene where I forgot the character's name, makes a comment about, like, some blue
cerulean blue.
Cerulean.
Oh no, that's true.
And maybe
it really does.
You can help.
That's the way that happens.
Yeah. And for people who may not have seen the movie, I would kind of like to talk to you about that as well, about what, how fashion actually works, because it's not like a whole bunch of people just making things and sketching things and saying, oh, there is a process, and there is, I hate to use the word trickle down, but there kind of is. Yeah. You have people like,
there's trickle down, there's trickle up, and there's trickle across. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like Tim's trickle up.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it's challenging for people to understand that, and that's why maybe sometimes they don't want to invest in pieces from designers. They would just rather go straight to wherever and get something that's really inexpensive.
Because they're unsure if it's something that has longevity. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. I probably wasn't asking that question because my brain was swirling around in a little tornado. But no, I think some people. Thank you. This helps. Like, you get me.
I hate to do this.
Yeah.
Can I wipe my nose again? Or are we on camera?
Our producer is making us take a break. Yes.
Thank you. Oh my God, that's why you stopped. I thought I had like a bogey. I was like, oh my God, it's dripping and I can't feel it, because sometimes my nose ring feels like cold and I can't tell.
Talk to our audience and let you all know that our producer has stopped the show because he was so captivated by her neckties. So I guess we can
Thank you.
We can actually talk about that. Yeah, we can just use that as a segue. We were gonna get there, but so let's talk about your signature pieces. Like, I'm sure every designer is kind of known for a thing. And when I first met you, I remember you doing these beautiful pieces that was like part necktie, part jewelry, part necklace. Where did you get the idea to do that piece specifically? Because I feel like maybe that's what you have been most known for.
I guess so, right?
Yeah.
Like it just sort of happened. I have a love of vintage. I worked at vintage stores. I studied vintage. Like one of my favorite freaking classes in college was with Margaret Mitchell was the history of costume, and she was also my mentor, one of my mentors. But so it felt very sad, and I collect vintage as well. But I also believe to collect is to use, because things should be used for their intended purpose. But I have a love of vintage, and it made me sad when something would break, and I'm like, I can't wear it as an earring, but I don't want to get rid of it, you know? And I would see people, exactly. I would see people throw things away, and I'm like, that still has life left in it. And with my tie necklaces, I love vintage ties. I just think they're so amazing.
Yeah,
they have so much workmanship, and the silk, and the this, and the prints, and the that, and but there's only so many ways you can wear just a basic tie. You know what I mean? And then also as a woman, what am I gonna do? You know? And so, and that's why I was like, oh well. So I started upcycling antique and vintage jewelry, and that just seemed the natural progression. I literally had a bag of ties that would follow me from apartment to apartment. I am not joking. It was like a box. It was a box. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I was like, I need to downsize. I was like, what am I doing with these? And this is my thing. This is how I stop from clutter.
Okay.
If I don't have an idea for it, I have to get rid of it. An idea that I'm going to do in the next couple of years. If I don't think of an idea, I have to get rid of the fabric. Because I will hoard. I will hoard creative anything. Yeah. So that is what I've had to do. And I looked at those ties and I was like, I don't want to get rid of you. I need to figure something out. And I was like, ooh, this would be cute. And people like them, and that's kind of how things happen. I was like, oh, I guess maybe I should sell it. Okay, let's see how that goes. So that's pretty much what happened there. And as a matter of fact, for my next collection, I'm including 2 solid tie necklaces, which because it's also, if I don't feel that connection with a vintage tie, then the tie necklace doesn't happen. So I was like, instead of letting people want for one and not find the perfect one, I'm going to offer some solid tie necklaces with rhinestones and some pearls and that sort of thing, but those that I can remake, to where it's not just the one of a kind. So I'll be doing both.
Okay. Yeah, that is exciting, because I remember the first time I saw them, I was like, oh, wow, these are seriously cool. And I don't think I've ever seen anything. I've seen a similar thing, but not like the way you have done it. Like, it's a very specific aesthetic. And I also, it's so funny because now everybody uses the word aesthetic. It's like, you just see the word splashed across the website, like aesthetics. How did you come up with the name of your brand and the spelling? Can you share the significance of that with us?
Early 2000, I think I came up with it in early 2000, like 2000. No, not early 2000. No, it was early 2000, like 2001 or what have you. And honestly, I it's a look. Yeah. It is a whole vibe. That's all I wanted to say. But I didn't want to define the vibe as something specific, because that is what your name does. But I also wanted to allow room for my design to evolve and for my look in each collection to evolve. And the name has to evolve with it, but yet stay static. So it still has to put that feeling out there. So it's a vibe. Yeah. That is what I mean by the aesthetic. It is the vibe, but it's your vibe. Yeah. It is what you make of it. And that's what I want for my clothes, for people who wear my clothes. Not to just wear the vibe, create your own vibe with my clothes.
Well, and that is, that's real style. You have fashion as an industry and commerce and corporate, all of that. The machine.
The machine. Yeah.
And then you have style, which is very personal. And I think your pieces, a person can incorporate them into their own style, or they can use that as sort of a platform and build on it. Because there are people who are completely, I work with people every day that, not to be ugly, they just don't have a style. It's just not their thing. Yeah. They don't know where to begin. Right. And they see one thing and it's like, oh, I know what I want to do. Yeah. And I think that's what your pieces do.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I was hoping that is what comes across.
Yeah. No,
I was hoping that was my intention. Yeah. But you never really know, like.
Right.
you never really know. I don't really get to, I guess, have that much I have interaction with my customers when I ask a question.
Yeah.
I have this fear that people are just going to tell me what I want to hear. So so I'll tend just not to ask the question because I'd rather you tell me the truth. And my friends will tell you,
when
like,
they're
I
lying.
want you to be honest and brutally. So I would rather that, or I don't ask the question. Like if I don't think you're going to tell me what you really feel, I don't ask the question because I don't get butthurt. I don't. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and the beauty that I create is not for everybody.
Absolutely.
I understand that.
Yeah, everything ain't for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything ain't for everybody.
Yeah, no, that's great that you realize that. I think a lot of young designers that or people that want to go in design at some point should embrace that, because that's another way that you can kind of drive yourself crazy by thinking you have to appeal to every single customer.
Yeah.
You are always going to have a following and a core, but you're not going to reach the entire world. It's really impossible. It's like an exercise in futility. Yeah. So you find your people.
I'm not looking to be an Amazon.
That's a whole other.
I know, right?
Yeah, but you let your people find you. You find your people, and you build from that. But you don't have to capture every segment of the market. It's unrealistic, and then it becomes less artful. Yeah. So it's good that you realize that, because there are a lot of designers I know that are just trying to just get everyone, and that is it's kind of like spinning your wheels.
Right.
So
and the purpose for me, for what I do to create, is I will go crazy if I don't create. When I moved to New York, at one point I hadn't made anything or designed anything for like a couple of months.
Did you have like a knot in your stomach?
I got so depressed.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And finally I like pulled out like some craft paper and this Japanese ink, and I was like, I was like crying while I was painting, and then I was done, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And then I was like, okay, I tore apart a coat, and I made a skirt, and I was like, whoo, that did it. And I felt good. I was like, okay, I was like, I could never not do anything for this long again. But honestly, I just want to make a living. I want to make a living making people happy. Yeah. Put on my shorts, put on my jacket, feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
I want to know I put a smile on somebody's face, and it really touches me to know that people appreciate what I do. That's it. Yeah. I just want to make a living doing what I love to do and making people happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true that, I remember someone saying to me once, it's just a dress. It's like not that serious. And that was the tone and the voice in which this person said it.
Because it's just art.
It's just, and I had to explain to this person very lovingly and with kid gloves that, how we adorn ourselves is so important. And I'm just going to say it, especially as women of color. Yeah. It's very much ingrained within our DNA to use our own bodies as a means of expression. Like growing up, I remember going to the library, and I was always in the library and like pulling books down and looking at like all these tribes in Africa, and they were like, they were dressed down head to toe, like the robes and the swaths of fabric and the rings on every finger and the markings, and it was very much like announcing the community you belong to, announcing your
status within the community. Yep.
Absolutely.
And that is where all of my piercings, that was actually me connecting with my ancestors. That was my intention with my piercings. Every single one. It was a ritual for me. It was connecting with my ancestors.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because I think a lot of people may think that that's a modern thing, and it's really not. It's like as old as time, and it goes way, way,
stretching
way back.
the whole night.
Yeah, all of it. So then, what is? I almost hate to ask this because you're doing so much now, but what do you feel like in your progression as an artist and a designer and as a businesswoman? Because that's something we don't want to negate. There is the artistry of it. But you're also...
The business aspect is hard.
Yes. So if you don't mind sharing, like, what are some of your, like, business goals for yourself? Because, I heard you say, I just want to make a living. And I think that's what most creatives want to do. Yeah. And I know that you owned a store before. Like, do you ever want to open a brick and mortar again?
I fight in my head with wanting a brick and mortar constantly.
It's tough.
Yeah, because also I get to see when someone sees something and gets excited about a shirt. Like, that's just this. Yeah. And they don't know I'm there. And I'm just behind the counter. And they're like, they have no idea who I am. And they're like, oh my God, this is so cute. And I'm like, ah! you know, and
it feeds you.
Feeds, yes, it totally feeds me. However, but with the landscape of shopping the way it is, it would make good financial sense, and just as with the fact that like my husband supports me emotionally and believes in me, I also support him.
Yes.
Like we move every few years as well, so
And
that
I
just
love
doesn't make
that.
sense. Yeah. So,
Yeah. I mean, can we talk about also how important it is to have that support in a spouse or a partner? Because
I didn't know
think
what it was until
Woo!
I had it.
Woo, it's
and
powerful.
I was like, oh my God, this is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I asked him the other day. I said, what was it in me that you saw? Was it a moment where you were like, holy shit, this girl is, you know, like that you knew you wanted to like truly emotionally help and support and believed in my creativity. And he was like, you know, I don't think he really thought much of it.
Right.
You know, I ask like stupid questions all the time, but he knows, tell me the truth.
Right.
But he was like, well, one thing was definitely your work ethic. And I was like, oh, I was like, all right. It was like, that's true. I will stay up all night. Let me tell you, I haven't had much sleep in the past couple weeks working on the collection by myself.
I know,
without
I texted you,
Ileana. Without my intern, but working on the collection by myself. But yeah, it's and he doesn't give me shit when I don't come to bed because I have to sew or I have to pattern. He doesn't give me crap. I had people that I was with that would give me crap. Well, I haven't seen you in a couple days. I'm sorry. I am not hanging out at the nail salon right now, just doing my thing. I am working, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what don't you understand? Like, I am working. Yeah.
Well, and that support is everything. And going back to being a businesswoman, and you know, I've asked other guests this before. I'm curious how you feel. You know, the idea of being a woman and being able to like balance it all and have it all. Because anytime you have any person in your life, whether that person is a child, whether it's your best friend, whether it's a lover, husband, whatever.
I've lost friendships because I could not go out. I have lost friendships. Yeah. And I'm like, well, first of all, this is what I do to make money and what I'm trying to do to make money. And this is my goal. It's like, if you support me, it's like, of course I will make time for you, but maybe I can't make all the time you want. And you will have to understand that. This is the love of my life, is to be creative.
This conversation is echoing the conversations that I have with a lot of my friends who are designers. I'm thinking of 4 people specifically right now. And it's true, that does happen. Sometimes you lose friendships. We have 5 minutes. Darn it.
Oh, is that what that was?
What
I
else
was
do you
like,
want to talk
I was
about?
like, what's
Let's cram
happening?
it in.
Do I have snot on my face? Yeah.
You know, I enjoy.
Really? That was that
it
was
goes
an hour?
by so fast.
Lord have mercy.
And I enjoy every interview so much. I have not had a single one where I have been like, oh, I wish it's like in my mind. I'm like, okay, make sure you ask this question. And this is my least. I adore Guyland, but when I see his hands go up, that is my least favorite part of everyone. I'm just like, God.
I think keep talking like this for a couple of hours.
Well, I think one day I'm gonna have like a reunion show and just bring everybody back. I have some stuff in the works, but well, darn. Okay, so we have 5 minutes. What do you want to talk about? What is really important for people to know about Stacey Williams, the designer, the woman, the businesswoman? What do you want to really impress upon people?
Tell me what you think. I want to know what you think.
Right.
Even if you don't think I would care, every like, oh, that's cute, that actually matters. Like, every like actually matters.
Yes.
Every share actually, because as an independent designer, the people that you are trying to get to, they have no idea if you're real. You see all that crap on Facebook from all of these made up like companies that are all selling the same thing. You have no idea if they're real.
Yeah.
But you hitting the like button or the share actually tells people, I know this person's real. What they do is real. You're not just sending your money down a black hole. So it's not just, I want your like. It's like, can you help me tell those people over there that I'm real, that I actually ship my stuff, or that it actually fits, that all of that matters.
That I didn't screenshot something from another page and pretend it's my design.
Exactly, and I've had that happen.
That happens.
And it's like something that'll take you 2 seconds actually means the world to me.
Yeah.
It really does matter. And even just those little that's really cute. Even if you have no idea I made it, just saying that's really cute. I'm like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, thank you. Oh my God. You know, it's being, my work is being appreciated. Even if you don't buy it, that's fine.
Right.
But if you appreciate it, like that's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
The feedback and the appreciation is so important.
Yeah.
So tell everyone where we can find you on social media. And your website, and just if someone wants to reach out to you right now and order something, like where do they go?
Oh, they go to The Aesthetic.
Look into that camera in there, and is it on, Kylie? She's got to look right into the camera.
Okay, there's the light.
We need to know.
Website is The Aesthetic, and it's TheAesthetik.com. I also have a lingerie and swimwear line, The Pleasure Aesthetic. You can get to it either way. And social media, I'm The Aesthetic on Facebook.
Everywhere.
I'm The Aesthetic on Instagram. I am The Aesthetic Official on TikTok, which I don't do so often. I have a complicated relationship with TikTok. But anyways, but I'm working on it.
Right.
I'm working on it. But yeah. And so that's how you can find me. And honestly, I'll take emails. theaesthetic@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Shoot me an email. But I have all of like my contact information everywhere. Like I'm not one to hide my phone number.
Yeah.
I just won't answer it if I don't know. If I don't know that exactly. But
That's what
you
voice
want to
notes
know
for.
I'm real, like yeah, I'll answer back. I'm the one that answers back.
And I should ask, because I told a couple of people that I was interviewing a designer, and they're like, "What? Do you do custom design?"
Yes, I do custom all the time, as a
Okay.
matter of fact, and I'm very good at custom long distance. A good friend of mine who lives in New Orleans, I just did her wedding outfit. She's gender fluid, and I did a design of, we altered a design of mine called The Scant, it wasn't Shen that knocked it off. It was another.
We didn't even get to talk
We
about
didn't,
that.
But I know you wanted me to mention that, but it wasn't Shen. I'm not going to say who it was.
Right.
Let me tell you, I saved that screenshot. I showed my husband. I was like, look at this. I was so mad. But anyways, so I took her inspiration, and she always loved my Scant, and so we changed up the Scant, and we did like a little peplum tank top, asymmetrical, blah,
I
blah, blah.
love it.
It was awesome. It was great. But yeah, I do custom designs, and I try and make sure that everything's affordable. I'm not gonna fleece you. I want to see you in it. Like, why would I fleece you?
Absolutely.
Like, I want to make it affordable. Good design should be affordable.
Absolutely.
You know, and then I take measurements, do virtual fittings. You know, I do custom a lot. A lot of people don't know it. I'm still working on putting that part on my website, like an easy way to contact me about it.
I wanted to
but-
make sure that people knew, because I
Thank
had
you.
people ask. And I guess that's a good way to wrap the show up. I want to encourage the people that are watching the show to understand that when you support a designer, like, this is a human being. She's not a machine.
Yeah.
It's a person. So, you know, it is possible to make really sound, conscious decisions about where we're getting our fashion from.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't buy everything in your wardrobe from a designer.
Right.
But there's a time where you can pause and be very intentional and say, you know what, I'm going to go to a designer instead of running to wherever.
And that could mean the world to them. Going
Absolutely.
to Macy's and buying that shirt doesn't really matter to them.
They
It
don't
means
care.
the world to an independent designer.
Absolutely.
It really does.
Absolutely. Well, I guess that's a good note to close it on, so that our production manager doesn't shut everything off. Stacey, I really, really want to say thank you.
Thank you, girl,
could have
for
talked
having
to you
me.
for another hour.
I know.
And there were all these things. I was like, okay, book note. But we'll do it again. But thank you for taking time during your workcation to squeeze us in, because I know you have a photo shoot coming up.
Yep.
I know you have fittings. You're doing a lot this
Yes,
week.
yes.
So I really, really appreciate you being here, and just my gratitude. Thank you. And I think you're fabulous, and you're amazing.
Thank you, girl. Me
and
too.
I'm glad we finally made this happen.
Me too.
Seriously.
Same. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
I feel
you.
honored to be now listed among some of the women that you have interviewed.
Yes, because I'm only interviewing women that I really admire and find interesting and aspirational and fascinating. So yeah, you're definitely one of those. Thank you.
It gives me the warm and fuzzies.
Can I hug her now?